A woman named Hong leaving a letter on a desk and leaving her house. She then walks down a street in Japan and stops by a closed railway station. A flashback to 2019 shows Hong on a flight to Tokyo. She wanted to leave home and live life on her own, so she went to Japan to stay with a friend. While exiting a train station, her bag falls over and a young Japanese man helps her pick her things up. Her friend, Ji Hui, arrives to pick her up, and the man clicks a photograph for them as well. The girls go home, where Hong tells Ji Hui that her mother doesn't know she's in Japan. The next day, the man happens to see Hong while he's on a bus. Meanwhile, she tries to find a part-time job and visits several shops and stores. At the last store, she ends up meeting the man again. They both compete for the part-timer role by working for one day on the agreement that whoever does a better job will be hired for the position. When a customer is rude to Hong for being a foreigner, the man stands up for her and makes the customer leave. At the end of the day, Hong ends up keeping the job, but the man gets a job at a food truck across the road. Later that night, Ji Hui and Hong discuss the situation. Ji Hui also mentions that Hong's friend back home, Min Jun, likes her in a romantic way. At work, Hong keeps staring at the food truck, and the staff members notice. They even send her there to buy hot dogs. As the newbies on the job, both of them are sent to help clean the shopping district the next day. In the midst of it all, Hong gets a frantic call from her mother, who has found out she's in Japan. She accuses Hong of running away from getting a job, and the man sees that she's upset. He asks her to join him for a drink after work, and she does. They talk about her situation, and Hong complains that her loved ones don't understand her. They bond over being literature majors, and Hong tries her hand at a toy machine. He finally introduces himself as Aoki Jungo. On the way home, Hong is upset because she picked a toy but wasn't able to win the toy's accompanying character in the game. When Junko mentions the characters have everlasting love, she asks him if he believes in it. He says it must exist somewhere. The drunk Hong then runs home. In the morning, Hong is mortified at how much money she took from Jungo for the toy machine and feels embarrassed. While running in a park, Hong muses about how she doesn't believe in fate, but then comes across Jungo again. He was waiting for her all morning to give her the accompanying toy that he won after much effort. That's when she begins to believe in fate. The two start seeing each other in earnest and spend the season of spring together. The scene moves forward 5 years to Seoul in 2024. We learn that Hong has broken up with Jungo and has returned to Seoul. She gets a job at a publishing house named Sodan Books and rises through the ranks. She's going about her work when Minjun arrives with cake in hand and reminds her that it is her mother's lunar birthday. Minjun and Hong seem to have been dating for a while, and Minjun is considered a future son-in-law by the family. Hong's father then asks her to be his replacement language interpreter for the next day, since his own can't make it. Hong reluctantly agrees. The next day, she and a colleague go to the airport to welcome a Japanese writer named Saase Hikari. To Hong's shock, Jungo comes out of the arrival gate. Jungo entering a house in Japan and finding the note that Hong left behind. She says that she couldn't find everlasting love here and is going to go back home. He runs out to look for her but can't find her. A flashback shows Hong giving Jungo a poetry book back when they were happy together. At present, he reads the book on his flight to South Korea. When he sees Hong, he muses about how he never believed in fate before this. When Hong realizes Jungo is the writer named Sussy, she formally introduces herself as his interpreter. A flashback shows how Jungo asked Hong out. They are running in the park when Jungo tells her he wants to look for everlasting love with her. They then go back to her apartment and spend the night together. Sometime later, they translate their names into each other's languages. Jungo becomes Yuno and Hong becomes Benny. At present, they are awkward and stilted around each other. Jungo goes to his hotel room, and we see that he still has the keychain toy they had won together. Back in the past, Hong moves in with Jungo and they enjoy the honeymoon phase of their relationship. They go to a jazz bar where Jungo introduces Hong to his father, a musician, although he does mention an ex-girlfriend. On their way home, Jungo says that his ex simply dumped him one day. She was frustrated because he wouldn't express his feelings a lot. At present, Jungo gets a call from a woman. He then goes for the interview where Hong is asked to fix his collar, prompting them to come close to each other. Yoongo even holds Hong when she's about to fall. The interview takes place and Hong acts as the translator. In the process, he hints that Hong inspired him to write the novel. The interviewer then asks why he chose Kyoto as the setting for his book. In the past, Hong and Jungo visit Kyoto after moving in together. They ride bikes around the city and visit the grave of Hong's favorite poet. She then asks if they can stay the night because she wants to meet someone. They meet a woman named Mib Shizuko, who is an old friend of Hong's father. She gives them dinner and even tells them to stay the night since all the hotels are booked. Before they sleep, Hong says that Shizuko was her father's first love and she has been curious to meet her. Her grandfather had opposed the relationship. When it comes to them, Jungo promises that they will never drift apart. At present, Jungo replies to the interviewer that Kyoto was chosen at random. She then asks if Jungo still has feelings for that person and if he still believes in everlasting love. He says that he hasn't forgotten about her over the last 5 years, but Hong isn't able to translate this and asks for a break. At the end of the day, Hong wishes him well and says a different interpreter will be with him from the following day. While he goes back to his hotel room, he recalls Hong breaking up with him and regrets not saying anything at that moment. He turns around and rushes to see Hong again, Hong leaving from the interview with Jungo. Minjun calls her, and she's on the phone with him when Jungo runs out in front of her car. She tells him it's nothing and puts the phone down as Jungo gets in her car. Jungo confesses he doesn't know where to start, but he doesn't want to let go of this chance to speak to her. He says he wants to make things right, but she tells him she's getting married soon and ends the conversation. In the past, Hong comes back from Japan and is greeted by her sister and Minjun. She's shocked to learn that her father is in the hospital, and later thanks Minjun, who is a doctor, for looking after him. She then starts helping her father at his company and spending more time with Minjun. At present, Jungo resumes the interview with a new interpreter, but he's distracted. He requests for Hong's phone number, but the interpreter says she can't do that. She does mention the lake that Hong lives close to. A flashback shows Jungo going to a class reunion where everybody talks about how he's upset because he just broke up with his girlfriend. His ex-girlfriend Kana reconnects with him at the event. At present, Kana makes a surprise appearance in Seoul while also representing Jungo's publishing house. Meanwhile, Hong is very distracted during the shopping for her and Minjun's wedding clothes. She recalls trying on a wedding dress in Japan with Jungo as well. They don't end up buying from this shop, and Ji Hui then drags her out for a girls' night out. Ji Hui calls out Hong's sad attitude through the whole process, which prompts Hong to reveal that Jungo's in town. In the past, Jungo stays busy with different jobs, but Hong keeps wanting to be with him all the time. Ji Hui heads back to South Korea. Hong calls her sister and realizes that her father's business is about to close and the family is shifting houses. Rock asks about Hong's applications to graduate school. Hong receives an acceptance at a school in Japan, but lies to her sister and says she failed. One night, Hong is running in the park when a drunk man begins to chase her. She falls down but makes her way to a police station and then to a hospital for her broken foot. Through it all, Junko doesn't pick up the phone. She ends up calling his father for help. When Junko comes home, she blames him for putting his work first and her second. To top it all off, she doesn't have anybody but him to lean in for support. At present, Hong and Ji Hui get drunk, and the latter assures Hong that she won't see Jungo ever again. They meet Minjun at a bar, and Ji Hui goes home. Minjun talks about how he fell for Hong after she came back from Japan. She's about to say something when Minjun cuts her off. He mentions that feelings can change over time. On his way home, Minjun looks up Jungo's new book on the internet. Elsewhere, Kana and Jungo go on a dinner date as well. She picks up on his troubled mind and then says that she's been waiting for him to fall back in love with her for 5 years now. From his reaction, she realizes he has met Hong. Later, they go their separate ways. Jungo is drinking alone in his hotel room when Kana knocks on his door. She hugs him and asks him to marry her. Jungo waking up to a call from Kana, she apologizes to him for the night before. He asks her to cancel the expat meeting that day since he wants to rest. He then looks up Budang Lake, the area where Hong lives. A flashback to the night before shows Kana asking Jungo to come back to her. He simply apologizes. At present, Jungo asks the hotel for a taxi. At Hong's place, Rock tries her hand at baking. Hong learns that Jungo cancelled his meetings. Rock then asks to bring out Hong's old guitar. She reminds her sister that she had ordered Rock to never touch the instrument. Before she leaves for work, Hong speaks to her mother about marriage and Minjun. Her mother advises her to marry someone good rather than marrying for love. Back in the past, Hong's boss gets engaged. She feels grateful to have found a family in the restaurant staff and tells them so. She goes home and shows Jungo the wedding invitation, but he seems unsure about being able to attend it. On a phone call, Ji-hoo tells Hong about Japan's wedding customs. Later, Hong and Jungo walk down the street talking about marriage. When Hong likes a wedding dress in a window shop, Jungo insists she try it on. Sometime later, Jungo borrows a suit from a friend. The friend informs him that a professor named Sato is looking for a new recruit in publishing. Jungo meets Sato on the day of the wedding, but Sato asks him to start work immediately. Hong arrives at the wedding along with her guitar. She performs an English love song for the couple. And Junko only shows up after the wedding is long over. He goes home and explains the situation, saying he always wanted to work at that publishing company. They argue, and Hong begins to believe that everlasting love doesn't exist. At present, Jungo sees Hong running on the path by Budang Lake. She sees him too, but runs straight past him. But she's more upset than she let on, and soon trips and falls. Jungo returns to the hotel. Minyon speaks to a friend, who tells a story about how his wife was quite nervous before their wedding. At home, Rock gives Hong a green envelope that she found in the guitar case. The next day at work, the officer prepares for Jungo's book signing event. It's also his birthday. In the past, Hong treats Jungo and his father to a meal to celebrate Jungo's birthday. At his father's house, she goes through old photos and sees young Jungo celebrating his birthday with a Mont Blanc cake, his grandmother's favourite. She finds the cake at a shop later, but it's too expensive. Afterwards, they discuss how Jungo should express his feelings more. Jungo says he's going to write a novel about what he feels for Hong. Hong then promises to buy him a Mont Blanc cake next year. At present, during Youngju's event, someone asks Youngju if he truly believes cross-border romances can last. He says that he really wrote this book for one person, hoping that she will understand his feelings of regret. As the book signing goes on, Jongju is surprised to see Minjun in the line. Minjun asks Youngju if he knows Choi Hong. Meanwhile, Hong leaves the event and takes the green envelope out of her bag. Minjun asking Jungo for a quick chat during his book signing. Minjun reveals that he's her fiancé and asks him to stay away from Hong. He rails against Jungo's book and tells him he's going to propose to Hong that night. Jungo asks him to promise that he'll never make Hong feel alone. Minjun says that's the easiest thing to do. As Jungo walks away, he wonders why it wasn't easy for him. Back in the past, Hong's morning jogs in the park become longer as their relationship falls apart. During Jungo's childhood, we see that his mother asked who he wanted to live with when she was leaving his father. He replied that he wanted to stay with his mother, but she left him with his father anyway. At a young age, Jungo realized that sometimes it doesn't matter what you say. At present, in South Korea, Jungo returns to the book signing. Kana asks him to join her for a drink later. In the street, Hong finally opens the green envelope. The letter was written a month after Hong left Jungo. In the letter, he says he shouldn't have let her leave like that, but he pushes aside his regrets and starts writing his book, hoping to meet her again as he follows his dream. After the book signing, Jungo goes for a get-together with the publishing company staff. Minjun goes back to the hospital where his senior reveals that Minjun has been accepted for a training program in the US. Minjun has to confirm by the end of the day. He worries about Hong's reaction. Jungo meets Choi-han, Hong's father and the president of the company. Hong says that Jungo's book made him wonder if love really ends. He then meets the other employees and notices Hong's blue keychain by her desk, the one they've bought together. Hong arrives but hides away in the toilet. Later, Han finds her and tells her to at least drop by the dinner with Jungo. She goes to her desk and finds a copy of his book waiting for her. She ends up going for the dinner where the staff bring out a cake to celebrate his birthday. It's a Mont Blanc cake that she picked out. Somebody asks Jingo what happened with the real woman the book is based on. He says he failed to understand that she was lonely and she left. Hong comments that Jingo's love changed. He says his love never changed. Back in the past, Hong gets a call from Rock who tells her that their father has filed for bankruptcy. She tries calling Jungo, but once again he ignores the call for work. When he returns, he explains that a writer from his company, whom he was acquainted with, passed away. Nevertheless, Hong says he should have called and calls him out for never apologizing and breaking his promises. He blames her for not being understanding, and she feels all the more hurt. In the end, she tells him they should break up. At present, Hong leaves and goes to meet Minjun at a fancy restaurant. He tells her about the US program and asks her to start a new life with him over there. He brings out a ring and promises to never let her feel lonely. She starts crying and tells Minjun that she's sorry. She's not sure she's over Jungo yet. He asks if things would be different if they dated before she left for Japan. She says even if they were married with kids, her heart would drop when she saw Jingo. She leaves the restaurant in tears. While driving, she thinks about Jungo. She calls her colleague who says Jungo is back at the hotel. She buys a bouquet of flowers and goes to the hotel, where the receptionist tells her he's in the bar. Jungo and Kan are having a drink at the hotel bar. Kana says she's realized she can't control love. They're laughing together when Hong walks in with a bouquet of flowers. Kana sees her walk away, and despite her feelings, tells Jungo. Jungo runs after Hong. Outside, Hong gets frustrated. She wanted to thank him for all the love he showed her, and to let him know that they should let go of their regrets now. She drives away, and Junko isn't able to find her. He reflects on their relationship, about how in the end they were in the same space, but he couldn't understand her. But now he understands how lonely she was. The next day, Jungo and Kana have breakfast together. She tells him to honestly express his feelings to Hong. At work, Hong's colleagues tell her that there's one last interview with Junko left. She tells them to conduct it without her. On the way to the interview, Junko asks to stop by the office. He thanks the staff for their support, but Hong isn't there like he expected. He goes to her desk and leaves his keychain next to hers, completing the pair. Hong comes back to the office later and sees it. During the interview, the interviewer asks Jungo what the phrase "what comes after love" means to him. He replies that after love, one can gain an understanding of what love is. He calls it a sad irony. Hong reads his book. He's written how he remembers all the good times and how they believed happiness lasts forever. We simultaneously see flashes from their past as well as moments of Jungo writing his book. On the day she leaves, he runs to the train station but can't find her. At present, Hong finishes the book. She thanks him for the keychain. He asks to see the book that he's aiming to find. They meet at a restaurant. Hong lies and says she accepted her boyfriend's proposal. She then asks the question on her mind. Why didn't he try to stop her from leaving? Why did he leave her alone when she was crying? He admits he didn't take her loneliness seriously back then and regrets it immensely. She assures him that he doesn't need to regret it anymore and thanks him for writing a book about their love. Before she leaves, he makes her promise that she'll be happy. She nods and wishes him well too. Hong gets into her car and dissolves into tears. Back in the past, Hong goes to meet Miss Shizuko again. She talks about dating Hong's father in the past, but she was glad Hong's grandfather opposed the relationship. She couldn't move to a foreign country and rely on one person, but she believes that all love is meaningful, no matter how long it lasts. At present, Jungo checks out from the hotel. The staff gives him Hong's flowers, which she had left with them. In the car, he sees a message, "Sorry for earlier, happy birthday." At home, Hong wakes up in a good mood and tells her sister and mother they should go on a movie date. She then goes out for her run around the lake. Suddenly, someone joins her. It's Jungo. They stop running, and Jungo tells her he kept running after they broke up because he missed her. Then he begins to understand she was running because of her loneliness. Hong admits to not being able to run right after the breakup. She regrets not understanding him more and only complaining. They both apologize to each other, and he takes her hands in his. It begins to snow, and they smile at each other, walking hand in hand through the park. Sometime later, we see them running together in the park under blooming cherry blossom trees.